High-speed trains are fast, efficient, and low carbon. They can be found all over the world in growing numbers. You can take one from here, or even here. But who takes the cake for the world's best high-speed rail system? China. In little more than a decade, China has built almost 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, connecting nearly every major city in the country. China now accounts for roughly 2/3 of the world's high-speed rail volume, outstripping both Japan and the EU. Meanwhile, in Europe, only 11,000 kilometers of high-speed rail are currently in use, according to the Worldwide Railway Organization. And forget about the US, it barely even has one. So how did China do it? Can other countries even come close to achieving the same? And what do expensive lizards have to do with it? To give you some idea of just how impressive this feat is, we have to dial history back a bit. In 1969, Japan was the first country to debut a high-speed train. The UIC defines high speed as faster than 200 kilometers an hour. Back then, the Shinkansen bullet trains could run at 210. Eager to compete, the US inaugurated its Metroliner service between New York City and Washington, D.C. in 1969. Next up, France. In 1981, it opened a high-speed train line between Paris and Lyon. Then Germany got on board with the Intercity Express in 91. Italy, Spain, and Russia soon began rolling out their own networks. In contrast, China's rail network had changed little over the decades and was in no shape for high-speed use. But then, China's so-called economic miracle did its thing.
Chinese didn't invent high-speed rail, but boy, have they adopted the idea and run with it.
This is Mark Smith, otherwise known as the man in seat 61. He runs one of the internet's most popular train blogs, so he rides a lot of them. Like, a lot.
They are now streets ahead of any other high-speed operator in terms of the network they've built. It's incredibly well organized. Everyone on the high-speed network has their own reserved seat. They've got all the boarding processes down.
Today, you can get from Beijing to Shanghai, a distance of 1,300 kilometers, in just 4 hours. You can go from north to south, from Beijing to Guangzhou, in 8 hours instead of 22 on a regular train. And if you really wanted to, you could take a bullet train to Tibet at 3,000 meters above sea level with automated oxygen supply and tinted windows so you don't get sunburned at such high altitude. So, how was all of this even possible? Well, firstly because they could do it for a bargain price. In China, a kilometer of high-speed track costs 17 to 21 million. In Europe, that price tag is 25 to 39 million.
China's infrastructure boom was and is a matter of, political will, but also the ability to mobilize massive amounts of cheap labor, which is connected to, cheap materials.